What is the raunchiest or most ducked up 6 act you have done or would do? NSFW. I went out with a girl in college with a dinosaur fetish. She was into dressing up. Stegosauruses still give me the weirdest boners. Okay, this is a bit crazy, but it belongs here. I once met a chick who was kind of quiet and stuff. Bookwormy, you know the deal. But I'm kinda into chicks with glasses. I took her out for the usual, and she invited me back to her place. This was going well. Usually they wait a bit to put out. When the conversation turned toxics, she confessed to me she was something of a weird fetish. She liked a certain thing, and would put out for me if I did this thing for her. It tuned out the thing was her watching me take an upper decker into her toilet tank while she twiddled herself. She started screaming louder, wetter, and got herself off and paralytically screamed every time she heard it go plop into the tank. She didn't let me wipe and told me to do her right then and there. I bent her over the toilet with her smelling what I just did. Weirdest 6 ever. There was not a second date. I kind of went crazy in college and did a lot of ducked up things. One that comes to mind is when I lost a poker bet. Me and some friends got into playing poker fairly regularly and one day it progressed into strip poker. When that wasn't enough we started doing raunchy dares. The more money you bet, the raunchier the bet. One night it was down to me and this one guy. We both went all in. I had a flush and was too drunk and confident to realize he might have a full house. Ended up losing and having to pay up. The bet was an L6. He ducked me right there in front of everyone. So while I was having unlimited soup salad and breadsticks at Olive Garden once and my waitress was pretty hot, we flirted a bit and eventually she came down and sat at my booth with me. We talked and giggled a bit. I gave her a good tip and put my number on the receipt. For some reason she actually called me. So then after her shift she asks to meet up. I swing around since she doesn't have a car. I grab her and she has got a big thing of breadsticks, a good dinner-sized portion of chicken alfredo and one of those weekday lunch special panini things. She says, I got us some dinner. You want to go back to my place? Sure, why not? So we drive to her apartment and we flirt all the way there. It's getting a little sexual by the time we get there, so we get out and have a blast. In the kitchen she gets forks and stuff and sits next to me. We're eating when her hands linger to my thigh. I'm pretty aroused by then and she notices. Zip, my fly goes down and in the middle of this meal she goes to town on my lobster cannelloni. I pause my meal in shock and pleasure. She says, don't mind me, keep eating. So I'm getting a BJ while eating a ton of breadsticks. It was the most amazing experience I'll never forget. Soup and breadsticks while getting a blowy. To be fair, I gave her more than a tip by the end of the night and finished on her apron. She even still had half of her work uniform on too. TL. Doctor, I can't go to Olive Garden without wanking one out in the bathroom anymore. I sometimes fantasize about consensual sex with a woman. This is the same story I had for the sluttiest thing you've ever done thread. This isn't so much slutty as it is shameless. I was having sex with my ex-GF in her parents' basement. Her grandmother was in town and decided she needed to use the basement bathroom at 3:30 in the morning for some reason. She walks downstairs to see her granddaughter getting her cervix punched by the head of my D. Doggy style. By the nice blonde pale boy she had just eaten dinner with earlier. My ex didn't notice Gram on account of her facing the other way moaning into a pillow. Her grandma stood there stunned waiting for a reaction, so I shrugged with one arm and mouthed sorry, but I didn't stop because I didn't want my GF to know. Next morning her grandma acts like it didn't happen and my ex was none the wiser. Raises meat horn in gratitude to Odin. I ducked a jar of peanut butter when I was 13. Just gonna throw it out there. It's messy and it felt good except as I used chunky and it cut my D and I got an infection from it. Had to tell my parents. It was embarrassing as yaos. Don't use chunky. I fisted a girl during a threesome in a dark room. When the lights came on my arm was covered in blood to my elbow. I was horrified until she said, oh yeah, I'm on my period. A guy asked to pee in my butthole. I let him. I've had my arsehole licked a few times. Oh god, it's mind-blowing fan-ducking-tastic. I only licked one arsehole. God, it was so hot. I wish more ladies were into it. 60 minutes in and 3 poop related posts. I had sex with a woman while her husband watched. Got a BJ on the front lawn of my parents' house after a long night of drinking. Late enough into the night morning to be interrupted by my dad leaving for work. There was this girl I knew to be very dominating in the bedroom. We had talked for a while and I ended up visiting her one night. We had talked a lot and ended up talking about sex. She said I must be such a prude. I'm short, blonde and friendly but well built. I stood up, grabbed her hair and unzipped my pants while looking her in the eyes with a devilish grin. I could see it so well. She was on. I decided that this dominating girl would have no say in their sex. I was the dominating one this time, and she was fighting to gain control in this. Only thing is that I had 10 years in judo which came in handy in this kind of play. It's a submission sport, and those holds and submissions were used a lot to stay in control and dominate. We were fighting, ducking, teasing for a few hours, and she was trying to get just any control the entire time. It is so exhausting, but so much fun, and she loved every minute of being just my toy even though she was trying to have any say in the act. After that session we both just about passed out and she never dared to call me a prude again. But just to be clear, this was 100% consensual. Just two very stubborn individuals fighting for control during sex. And then there was this incident. A story can follow if there is interest. I had sex with my 4th grade next door neighbor when I was a 2nd grader. We had no idea what we were actually doing. We were just excited. I think she told her parents, because they moved away a couple months later. TLDR, I lost my virginity in 2nd grade. I fingered a girl's ass before. My finger smelled like daisies afterwards. Masturbatory material for those who can't be bothered to leave AskReddit. I'm 20 and just last week I met a 44-year-old man through a website that arranges sugar daddy sugar baby relationships. We spoke on the phone once before meeting and got along great, so the next day I drove to his city where we met for lunch. We had sex 4 times that day, one of which was anal sex. I left early in the morning, but not without a check. We plan to continue this arrangement for years to come, unless I run into a better offer. He plans to support me financially by helping me with my college loans, rent and other things that are important to me like groceries and a yoga membership. He is already planning a trip to Asia and wants to take me to Hawaii in the future. All of this in trade for companionship. I've been tied up naked to a street, Andrews Cross in a 6 club and gotten a blowjob. I've also been tied down to a spanking bench and to a leg spreading chair. I've also been stripped down to just socks on stage at a strip club in front of several hundred people. I'd totally try water sports. Full stop. I dated a crazy pillhead that turned out to be a cheating slut, but I digress. She always wanted me to choke her as I ducked her throat while she was on her back, Arabian goggles style. It was awesome. Kind of like jacking myself off with my cock in her throat, except when I came, she wanted it on her face. Then she wanted me to piss power wash it off. It was a strange, dark 5 months of my life. I ducked an orange. My friends told me you could masturbate with fruit. I put that dirty itch into the microwave to get her nice and hot and then went to town. Citrus burns, man. Citrus burns. Everywhere. I once met a girl who made me play the saxophone while I sing her, and I couldn't stop play badly or else she'd stop. Okay, adult, well, like 2 Halloweens ago I was at, you guessed it, a Halloween party. Well, I'm like the least creative guy in the whole wide world sober, so I could think of 0 ideas for a costume. So last minute there I am grabbing a cheap cow costume with udders at some party store. Fast forward a few hours, I'm drunk as a skunk. Well, cow. I'm starting to get more creative at this point and decide one of the udders needs to be my whiner. So I cut one of them off and replaced it with my junk and just kind of walked around the party for a bit until we started noticing. Needless to say, 2 girls, a cute one and a got kicked in the face by the hoof of a cow. Not me. Girl decided that I needed to be milked. This is now of those costume that I rinse, lather and repeat with. I have never done anything objectionable. I have a few. Ass to mouth, getting peed on, BDSM style spankings that left my ass black and blue for a week, licking ass, getting ass licked, getting my ass fingered, then sucking on the finger, used, My boyfriend, at the time, ducking me in the kitchen while his friend was sitting on the couch watching us, masturbating with dildo and pussy, while guy ducks me in the ass. FMF threesome with my boyfriend and best friend. At one point, was licking her ass while he was licking her pussy, something I still want to do. Lick my boyfriend's D as he ducks another girl, while it's going in and out of her. Also, after he comes inside of her, I lick her pussy clean. I'm a clean cut professional by day. Just like to get freaky every once in a while. I dated a girl right out of high school who was a complete nympho. She loved everything, from anal to me filling her with toys. When I was about to ejaculate once she yelled paint my walls. From then on it was just weird. I've rented hotel rooms and posted the location and room number on Craigslist saying I would take any man's load in my ass bareback. I got about 35 loads the first time and around 25 the second time I did it. Both nights lasted about 7 hours. At a Six show in Amsterdam, the performer brought me up on stage, stripped in front of me, put a 1/2 peeled banana in her pussy, and invited me to eat it. I was so ducking high I had no idea what I was doing. Hooked up with a very obese lady. I was on sugar for the second last time. I know this doesn't excuse my decision making, but it explains my severe need for thrusting. She gave me head while she sat on the toilet, peeing. Then we went to her bed. I had gross unprotected sex with her twice, then she passed out while laying across my chest. She was snoring a lot, but I was on that go fast and got another erection. Her big gross boobs were on top of my dong. I started to rub it on her nipples to wake her up, but she was out like a light. I began having boob sex with her while she snored. I knew it was wrong, but I kept going. Eventually she woke up and I stopped. We had sex one more time and then we both passed out. She gave me a ride home in her Suburban the next morning. My friends had a half fake half real intervention with me a few days later dealing with mis-escapades with scallywags. It didn't work. My ex-girlfriend and I always had a joke that when I did something she really needed she'd give me a blumpkin. One night we got extremely intoxicated at our local bar's quarter beer night. We get home and I have the gnarliest case of the Hershey squirts. She comes banging on the door asking me if I'm pooping. I told her yeah, and she barges into the bathroom and gets down on both knees and starts going to town on my sklong trying to get me hard. I didn't really want her to do it and I told her that, but she didn't really care. I'm a private pooper. Now let me tell you, the smell was horrid, like rotten eggs and dead carcass. She finally gets me hard, but at this point I'm completely done with my it. I ask her if I can just wipe and continue somewhere else, but she told me no. I finally finish after 10 minutes and deliver baby gravy down her throat. Clean myself up and just go to bed. What started as a joke ended up being the raunchiest thing I've done sexually. TL. Doctor received abuse blumpkin. I once dated a girl who could only get after us fighting. And I don't mean yelling and arguing, but physically beating each other, consensual of course. We pulled each other's hair out, threw punches, bit each other, etc. We would both be covered in bruises and cuts by the end of the night. I swear that once she clawed my back and bit my neck and face so hard that I was just covered in my own blood. And now, because of her, I get slightly aroused whenever a girl even playfully hits me. Man, you kids love getting pissed on. Put my tongue in a girl's butthole. She started making the most interesting noises. I was quite drunk and this cute virgin girl who had crushed on me for years were hanging out after school on a Friday. She told me she loved me and we had sex. I took her virginity. Afterwards I asked her to rim me. Give me a rim job. She at first refused, but I told her I would love her if she rhymed me, and then she rhymed me. She gagged and started crying. Then we had anal sex. The next day when I sobered up I realized what an immense piece of it I had been, and I was so embarrassed I couldn't even look this poor girl in the eye. Still feel bad about that, and it was many years ago. Whipped cream can nozzle in the ass. Deploy whipped cram. Eat out whipped cream. Drank malt liquor out of a V as well. I suppose raunchy is all relative. I have, and will again, probably within the week, if he decides to. Had my ass pissed in. I think it's ducking awesome. I had sex on top of a building once. There wasn't anything weird about it except the part where the guy barked like a dog at people walking by beneath us. I would to the old King Clancy. Nothing too crazy. This girl had wanted to have a sex with me for a while and she eventually got her chance during a house party where I got absolutely it-faced. Beer goggles on and erection on deck, she and I go at it in scarcely lit room. So we're in missionary and I start putting out like a supercharged V8. I'm drilling this girl like I've never drilled before and in the middle of it, she starts moaning. Crazy moaning. Otherworldly moaning, and then she says it. Nail me recyclabit. Nail me to the duck I'm cross. Nail me like I'm Jesus duck I'm Christ. So I duck Jesus. I don't feel too great about it. I do enjoy licking my girlfriend's asshole. And also anything anal related. Not so much on the receiving end. But I love shoving my tongue in her ass. We also use restraints. Slap each other. Stuff like that. My first wife licked my eyeball one time while we were ducking. I did not enjoy it. Some light bondage and sex in public is about as crazy as it gets. I'd be up for most things as long as it didn't involve poop or vomit. Duck that noise. I Spider-Man'd my wife. She still hasn't forgiven me. Blew my boyfriend on a train. In the middle of the day. In central London. Needless to say. Throwaway. I had a three-way with my boyfriend. And his most recent ex-girlfriend. On a couch. In a fraternity house. With several other guys passed out in the room. With the lights on. I brought home this Asian girl from the bar one night. While I was ducking her doggy style, I did the anal test. Yeah, no. Where you stick your finger softly in a girl's ass to see if she's up for anal. She loved it. I came in her ass and she actually reached back there. Stuck her finger in her ass to get the cum out and licked it off her fingers. I was speechless. I ducked a girl with a lightsaber. I'm dating the pastor's daughter. Had sex with his daughter in the middle of the church floor one night. Till all of the girls I've been with aren't kinky at all. I was on a road trip and staying in a hotel and felt horny, but I didn't know the area well enough to trust the streetwalkers and didn't want to rely on Craigslist. So I went to the store and bought a watermelon. A big one. I cut a tunnel in it long enough for my D and let it sit in the bathtub full of hot water to get it warm. After about an hour, I took it out and started ducking it, but I'd miscalculated. My D was too long for the watermelon, and I had to extend the tunnel all the way through so I could thrust to the hilt, as they say. But I turned that frown upside down. I created a seal over the exit hole with a sandwich bag so that when I thrust in, my D pushed air out like a piston. When I pulled back, the sandwich bag suctioned against the exit hole and sealed it, creating a vacuum effect behind my D that was not unlike receiving a blowjob. In Vegas, I once took a dump on a girl's chest because she asked me to. I would totally do pee in the V. I ate my girlfriend's butthole out. Once. A few times. I do it quite often. Getting wine drunk and then violently deep throat face ducked. Puked magenta Malbec chunks all over the BF's junk. Kept going. It happened 2 more times. No cleanup. Before we swapped to vag then anal. Did towel off the puke before penetration though. All the time we did an anal abuse fantasy outdoors. I think I would up with chiggers but it was worth it. Or the lollipop game, we've played a time or two, one dum-dum in the vag, one in the ass. Then I have to guess based on taste which dum-dum was in which hole. Oh. Actually I think the most out there or at least most intense was the time I asked him to slap me in the face during sex hard enough and frequently enough that I start crying. I was sobbing while he pounded my ass like no tomorrow. It was so cathartic and intense it felt like an out-of-body experience. I sobbed uncontrollably the whole time we ducked. I have a lot of crazy kinky sex but I think the last time was the most intense for me. I would duck on a ladder. I don't know why I would, but damn it I would if I could. I was swimming with my friend and her sister. We were all no older than 11 or 12. For some odd reason I suddenly got pretty horny and I remember grabbing my friend's sister while we were swimming and frantically butt humping her in the pool. Her brother was inside so I knew it was my chance. And it seemed as if she actually enjoyed it. It was pure bliss. Until I turned around after a few minutes of thumping her and made eye contact with her mom who was sunbathing on a char. To this day I still don't know if her mom knew what I was doing but she never said anything. So there's that. I had taken Viagra so me and my girlfriend could do the nasty for a long time since her family was out of town. She was riding me on top, looked down and said I have to pee. Do it then. She pissed all over me and her bed and just kept letting it out. We kept ducking for another 20 minutes or so, and she would occasionally force a little more pee. It was pretty raunchy. Double fisted. Fisting had become not really normal for the girl I was with, but we did do it from time. Totally crazy. Lots of preparation, lots of patience and work, but it was just orgasm after orgasm for the girl when done right. But lose any patience and you'll likely hurt her a bit. But one night we double fisted. She was clean and also that was good, but I totally felt like a puppeteer. Strange as duck. Would I do it again? With another girl? No. While it was a lot of fun at the time, it was too much like a forced orgasm. Leaves you feeling all strange. And after sex felt loose. After being on Reddit for over a year, I can now say that this is the first post I have read every single comment on.